Fast and Furious talk this afternoon comes from Rich Wickersham. He's going to talk about hacking the planet under glass. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, ShmooCon. First thing I want to do is thank Heidi and Bruce and the entire ShmooCon team for having this con for so many years. Many years ago, ShmooCon had the concept of a hacker arcade, and I was always sad that I didn't bring a game to the hacker arcade. And I sent Heidi a note before the show, and she let me bring a dialed-in pinball machine. And you want to tuck that in your memory banks for a few minutes from now, because there's a vulnerability in that game, of course. And that wasn't the case when we had the old hacker arcade. But carrying this time machine that we're in, if I could have gone back to the past, I would have brought a pinball. And I'm bringing one today, and we have one left, and I hope to bring one in the future, but we'll see. So, who am I? Most importantly, I'm a world-ranked pinball player. I'm technical, I'm hands-on, I like to get my hands dirty and work on electronics. That has led me into becoming an operator, a restorer, and a modifier of pinball machines. I'm also now a hacker of pinball machines. And the other important thing in my background is that I'm also a core organizer at B-Sides Nova. So putting these two things together and a lot of encouragement from the B-Sides Nova team allowed me to do some very interesting research. But before we start, I want to explain what a pinball machine is, because maybe some of you have never played one. That's something you can solve during this conference if you go to the chill out room. So keep that in mind. But pinball is a physical game. It's not like a video game, where a metal ball is plunged and flippers, the most critical component, are used to propel a ball, solve a puzzle, or achieve a high score. The high score element's very important to us competitive players because that's how we win a game. The components have remained the same throughout time since pinball began for the most part. Flippers, steel balls, pop bumpers, slingshots, coils, relays, switches, all this good stuff. With one major difference. Today, pinball machines are IoT devices. They have protocols running on them, including Bluetooth, and they're Wi-Fi enabled. So looking at a timeline of pinball machine modernization, electromechanical machines really started in the 1920s, but the first pinball games with a flipper, 1947, that was the first one. And if you look at this timeline for purposes of innovation, you'll see to the right, pinball's changed significantly in the last few years, and it's become very popular again. In 2012, I'm sorry, there was only one company left making pinball. That was Stern Pinball. And in 2013, Jersey Jack Pinball came out with a high-definition game. It was Wizard of Oz, a great game, with a computer driving it and all this new patented technology. And it's led to, now there are 10 companies today making pinball machines, and they're simply amazing. You'll see one today, or perhaps you'll see one when you're out and about, and now you'll play it. But the other thing I'll note is that, and I put the red box on here, the first in-game exploit against a pinball machine was actually at a security conference, and I sort of accidentally orchestrated that, or maybe it was deliberate. But looking at, as a visual of electromechanical, or basically all pinball modernization, the electromechanicals, you'll hear bells and chimes, there's stepper motors, there's no concept of a computer in these games. If you want to learn to read a schematic, pick up an electromechanical pinball machine. You will be frustrated, but you will learn. And with so many of us that are not hands-on and we're doing it on a keyboard, learning to be hands-on is a skill that is invaluable, I believe. Looking again at this, you know, of course I had to include Doctor Who because time travel, and looking at this list of modernization, again, Jersey Jack came out with the Wizard of Oz game in 2023, and it was a big game changer. It sort of relit the fire of industry in pinball. So the potential threats are financial threats. It's more like the esports model, where tournament prizes can be very significant. I've played in tournaments with over $100,000 prize pool. So there's a threat model that is financial. Score integrity. Throughout the beginnings of video gaming, people want to achieve a high score. As hackers, we want to see our names, places, and get credit for doing things. Cheating and interference are a real threat model in competitive gaming. The next threats are the loss of availability for both players and operators. I want to be able to go into a place and play a pinball machine and have it function. If I'm operating a game, I want to have it have the ability to make money. And the last item, and one of the main reasons I'm here, when you think about IoT botnets and things of this nature, you think about technology and IoT technology that we can throw away. Pinball machines, like the electromechanicals, should be playable 70 years after they're made. And I want that for future generations that play pinball. I want to be able to take a game that came out today and have my kids' play it 50, 60, 70 years from now. And I do play these games, these electromechanicals, in tournaments. We still play them. So looking at the motives around cheating, I had to include a picture of the King of Kong. That is Billy Mitchell. Billy was recently accused, and there's lots of litigation going on around using a micro switch instead of a leaf switch to gain an advantage in competitive play. This is a physical manipulation. You can imagine the threat model would be a little bit different if it were something else. And then the esports scandals, I don't even really need to go into that. You can see plenty of that. The financial gain, or the financial threat model, in the center here we have Replay FX. This is a huge tournament that I played in. An auditorium the size of 2 football fields, hundreds of games, prize pool in excess of $100,000. I played in it, I wasn't on the stage at the end. But I'd imagine that in that large crowd, there's somebody that would do something to potentially manipulate a game in a negative way, possibly, if the threat model were there, if the attack surface were there. The motive is there. So onto the vulnerability that we found. In 2020, so it's been a bit, but I brought an IoT pinball machine to B-Sides Nova. And this was the first machine to include Bluetooth connectivity. It included an application that paired to the pinball machine. And we found and exploited, you say it's always takes a team to find things, and we're able to validate things because we had a whole lot of hackers in a single location. We found a bug in version 1.73 of the code, and we determined that it could impact players in a multiplayer active game. So in a tournament, that would be a critical bug for pinball. And ultimately, the mobile applications were removed from the Google and Apple app stores, and 1.75 was released. Looking at the threat model visually, all you would need to do, and there's a bit more, but if you have the application downloaded to your phone, you have the Bluetooth dongle in and enabled on the pinball machine, and you have a threat actor. That could be a player in the game, or that could be someone within proximity in the location. So the disclosure here in pinball, it's no different from anything else. I reached out to the company prior to bringing the game to the conference, and I reached out again after finding the vulnerability. So when code version 1.75 was released, they deprecated support for the mobile app, but the protocol did not go away. And I paused the research due to the pandemic. No one was playing pinball, as it turns out. And I reached out to the developers after this talk because it was the right thing to do. I wanted to reach out to them again. I had poor luck getting a response initially, and it's, again, that's kind of the way it goes in this space. But when the README came out, I want to point out that the app was no longer supported, but additional attack surface was introduced. Wi-Fi was then supported. So I haven't explored that space, but it's there, and it's there in almost every new company that's involved in pinball today. So it's something that needs to be considered in that industry. When you add internet connectivity or you add new protocols to something that traditionally has never had it before, things typically don't well, but innovation is necessary, so it's better to fail forward. In naming the vulnerability, flippers are the most critical component of a pinball machine. I was like, oh, I've got a 0 flipper here, but flipper's 0, so couldn't do that. And from Bluetooth app recommendations, I always look at this from the perspective of a tournament director and tournament play, and the only way to be safe is to remove the dongle. The great thing about this particular game is they architected a game where it is a dongle enabling Bluetooth. had this been on a board, it might, and depending on the implementation, in this case it can be removed, the game can be made secure. And I included some other recommendations that I would have made had I been there and involved, or just feedback to provide. And finally, the lessons learned that security is not a priority for most small businesses. You know, getting a response from the company was a big challenge, and I also learned, I reached out to senior executives in the company that I knew first, and that was not the way to do it. And what I've learned going forward in this project is that reaching out to developers goes pretty well. And so that's what I'm doing. I have a lot of passion for pinball, and I didn't allow myself to get discouraged, and I would tell any of you, don't give up if you have a passion for something. You can make it better, and if we all do this with these things that we touch in our lives and we make them better, the world's gonna be a better place. So I'm not one to stop something once I get started as well. So going into this year, I've already approached the largest pinball company in the world with a proposal to bring games to Hacker Summer Camp. We'll see where that goes. And I registered pinballvulnerabilities.com, and I've now established contacts with 3 of the largest pinball companies in the world. And I think we're going to be able to secure pinball for the current and future generations. Last thing is, I promised I wouldn't talk about North Korea or DPRK, but I came up with an original concept design that will never get made, because that company would certainly be hacked if they made it. Thank you.